Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to be working on those disappearing effects. If you want to follow along, right click in your project manager here, import project, and we're going to work on 4H everything but disappears.drp and double click to open that. And everything should reconnect. If it doesn't, go up here, select everything, right click and say relink clips for selected bins. Go to your work files, select media and hit select folder. That should reconnect everything beautifully. We're going to be working on this shot disappear 01 at 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Click on Fusion and open it up here. So let's take a look at what we got. We have our lady hitting the button and the bad guy disappears. So instead of him just vanishing like that, we want this to be a little bit more exciting. So we're going to add some lighting effects and some smoke and particles and all this kind of cool stuff. First thing, let's load our LUT. Here, Blackmagic Design, Pocket 6K film to video. That'll give us a good idea of what our colors look like. And this is going to be quite a bit of things. And so I am going to move a little bit slower on this lesson because we're going to be doing quite a bit of stuff. The first thing, let's find the frame that we want to really focus on. Probably these frames here, frame 10 and frame 11, because that's the last frame before he disappears and then the first frame after he disappears. So this is where the majority of our stuff is going to happen. So on frame 10, we want there to be a flash of light here, almost like there's sort of like an explosion. His whole arm is going to emit light before it disappears. Over here in our media pool, under VFX, let's open that up. And we're going to import a piece of media. I'll right click and say import media. And what we're after is this lens flare 1a.png. That's what we want. Go ahead and hit open. And we're just going to drag this lens flare from our media pool down into our flow here. And this is going to get hairy pretty quick, so we want to make sure that we can remember what the heck we're doing. Let's rename our nodes. F2 to rename original footage underscore MI for media in. This is going to be flare MI. And we're going to start just by merging this over our original footage like this. And now we have this big flare in the middle of everything. I'll select our merge. Let's rename this and call it flare MRG. And over here for apply mode, where it says normal, let's hit screen. What that's going to do is get rid of all the black pixels so that we just have this light here. And with our merge selected, we can reposition this and scale it and all of that goodness to be about what we want. Something maybe like this. Put it right over his hand. Now this is going to be the great big flash of light before he disappears, and that's going to happen at frame 10. What we're going to do is just animate the blend of this merge to disappear right after he does. So I'd say we'll let him disappear and then we'll give one more frame. We'll get rid of this flare. So here at frame 12, we'll blend it all the way down. We'll come a couple frames back to frame 10 and we'll blend it all the way up. And we'll have this effect kind of grow over time. So we'll have it last a few frames. Maybe we'll start at frame 4 or so, and we'll blend this all the way down. So now let's see what we have. This goes shoop like that. So it just kind of grows and he disappears. And all at once, I mean, this works pretty well. We could leave it at that, and I mean, it wouldn't be terrible. It'd be all right. That's the nice thing, is a basic effect like this is pretty easy to make happen if you have the right elements. But let's make this a little more interesting. First of all, we don't want this to just fade in smoothly. I think it'd be cool if we made this a little bit more crackly, so it kind of blinks in and out a little bit. So one way that we can do that is go up here and click on spline. That'll open our spline panel down here. And we'll check blend on this flare merge. And see, right now, we have this blend is animating. It just starts at 0, and then it gets bright, and then it fades out. One thing we want to do is select all of these and hit F on the keyboard, and that's going to make this happen a little bit smoother. So it kind of gradually fades up and gradually gets bright, and then gradually comes down. And that pretty much always looks better than having that graph really sharp. So that looks nice. But if we want to make this crackle a little bit, we can actually just grab a couple pieces here and just make this a little bit more wild. Something kind of like this. It's where it sort of blinks on or off and kind of gets crazy. So let's see how that looks. So now we have this, yeah, it kind of starts to go whoop really quick. And that just looks a little bit more interesting, I'd say. It might be just a little much, so we can take this and make it a little less extreme, let's say. There, just gives it a little more character. That's great. I'd say that flare works. Every time that we add a little element, if it works by itself, then we're gonna end up with a pretty good effect. The other thing that I think will sell this pretty well is if we have some smoke. So let's say that, you know, there's this huge giant light and it's really hot, and then boom, it just leaves smoke. So we can take that same smoke from our muzzle flashes. We can take our smoke puff element, which is here in our VFX bin, and just drag that in. Again, we'll rename this smoke media in. And we'll actually put this before our flare because we want the smoke to be behind the flare. I don't know how much it'll matter, but I feel better about it. So we'll take this and merge it over our original footage. And now we have our smoke on black happening right there. And if we play this back, we see this is kind of shooting out this way. We don't really want this part where it's shooting out, but we do want the kind of residual smoke. So once it kind of stops being so directional, maybe like, maybe frame 10. That works pretty well, actually, just how it is. Look at that. We don't even have to move this back and forth. So let's use that just as it is. But our apply mode, let's switch that to screen. There's our smoke. But we want this to start right here at frame 10. Maybe even the next frame. Maybe we'll start that at frame 11. So we could animate the blend if we want to, or we can just go into keyframes. And in our keyframes panel, we'll take this smoke puff, grab just the edge of it, and roll this back, and just trim this so it starts at frame 11. So now we have this where the smoke comes in right there at frame 11. Of course, it's not at all in the right place. So let's grab the merge. We'll rename this smoke MRG. And here, let's reposition our smoke to be reasonable. Size this down a little bit, just move it up, something like that. Maybe we'll turn it. Let's see how that looks. There we go. Boom. Now he kind of explodes into smoke, which is pretty cool. I think the smoke's maybe just a little big. So let's take that merge and size it down a little bit like that. Yeah, I think that works just fine. A couple things we want to do to work on the smoke. Let's grab a blur and put that right here in between the smoke and the smoke merge. And we'll just blur it a little bit. We'll blur this like 4 pixels maybe. See how that looks. Yeah, just subtle smoke. We might not want it so strong either. Let's grab our smoke merge, bring the blend down to halfway maybe. Just want you to notice the smoke, just barely. And I think that's gonna work just fine. Okay,